Dr. Unnikrishnan. May I invite him to, he's going to talk on progressive nature of type 2 diabetes, opportunities for simple and convenient insulin therapy.
Dr. Ajay Kumar was to speak, but he missed his flight, so I am pitching in, and I just received the slides, prepared my slides today morning. I did a case, so if I'm not on top of my game, apologies in advance, but I think you'll enjoy the case and the discussion in any case. So, thank you, Dr. Rajesh, Dr. Rahul, for being the chairpersons, and thank you all the audience for being here early morning. And I'm going to talk about the progressive nature of type 2 diabetes, opportunities for simple and convenient insulin therapy. So my lecture will be divided into three aspects. So first, I will look at continued insulin care clinical considerations. Then I discuss a case. Then I look at the device. So we know that type 2 diabetes is a progressive disease, and the beta cells fail and fail and fail over time. This means that we will have to intensify our treatments. When diet and exercise doesn't work, we add 1 tablet, then we have to add 2 tablets, we'll have to add 3 tablets. But there is a time for every insulin, you know. When the beta cells are completely lost, you will have to give your patient basal bolus insulin. Initially, you can give basal insulin, but in between, when the fasting and postprandial is high, that's a time for premix insulin therapy. So, one important message that I want to give is that it's not enough to start insulin. You have to actually titrate insulin. So, in hospitals like ours, we have a diabetes educator whom the patient calls and adjusts and titrates. But in clinical practice, you can even call the patient every week or two and titrate, or teach the patient self-titration. I learned this many years back, and even when you tell the patient to titrate, you'll have to be very careful. Many years back, I had a patient who was a very educated patient, a professor, in fact. So I asked him to start insulin therapy. So he started insulin, and I gave him a very good pen device to start insulin. After 1 week, the blood sugar was still high, 200. So I increased the dose. Then after another 2 weeks, it was still high, 300. So I increased the dose. And it went on happening. And finally, I thought something wrong. I said, show me your pen. When he showed me the pen, there was no needle in that. So I realized, so I said, sir, why did you not use a needle? No, I thought that all the new devices are needle-free and pain-free. So I have been clicking, and I don't know what he was doing. But you know, we have to be, remember, our patients are more clever than us. So we have to be really clever to catch up. So yes, we have to adjust the dose of insulin. And then, once premix doesn't work, you'll have to add 4 injections. There are a lot of people saying that basal bolus is the most ideal way, basal bolus is the more fashionable. But still, we use premix a lot in our practice. Why? Because it is simple, it's convenient, it controls postprandial sugars, and it's easy for patients to understand, and it's easy for us to teach quickly. So premix is the quick solution, simple solution for many people with diabetes. But still insulin intensification is delayed, and that's because there is a clinical inertia in insulin. There is hypoglycemia, that we are worried about hypoglycemia. Treatments can become very complex because you add metformin, then you add glimepiride, then you add vildagliptin or any gliptin, then you add SGLT2, then you can add hydroxychloroquine, then you can add pioglitazone, then you can add acarbose. But all this while, sugars may still be high and we are waiting. So complex therapy is another reason. Regimens may sometimes be inflexible. So we cannot change the patient's, it's not flexible to the patient's living. And finally, there is weight gain, which is a problem, perceived problem with insulin. Can we find solutions? So I think, as I said, there is a time for every insulin. You start with basal insulin. You can give basal plus 1 injection, basal plus therapy, basal with 2 injections, basal with 4 injections. The other option is, instead of going basal, then basal plus, then basal plus plus, then basal bolus, why not go and start a co-formulation early. Now, this co-formulation has got an importance in insulin-naive patients where basal bolus and co-formulation are actually same. In people who are already on insulin, it may be a different story. But in insulin-naive patients, a co-formulation is a wonderful way to start therapy. So I think there are studies, and I'm going to show you a study where you can initiate and intensify with idagasp, which is degludec plus aspart. Now, why is it called a co-formulation? Why isn't it a premix? The difference between co-formulation and premix is that in a premix, if you have, say, aspart and a protaminated form, the protaminated form can contaminate and protaminate the aspart, so there may be a gradual blurring of the boundaries between the rapid acting and the intermediate acting. But in a co-formulation, you have aspart and degludec. Both are within the insulin and both retain their own discrete identities. Just like in India, we have so many people. We have so many identities. One of our identities is that we are a doctor. Second identity is that we are Indian. So both these identities we are able to retain, have distinct identities. Similarly, idagasp is an insulin which has an aspart and a degludec, and the shoulder is quite sharp. There's no curved shoulder because there is an action of aspart and a sharp action of degludec. So let's look at continued insulin care, a case-based discussion. But before the case, I want to show you evidence that this is a study done on 532 type 2 diabetes subjects, adults failing on oral drugs for at least 3 months and who are already on basal. So here is a situation where your patient is already on basal. I said that if you have insulin naive, basal bolus and co-formulation are equal. But here is a situation where you are having basal and what to do next, and the patient has failed, HbA1c is high. These subjects were randomized into 2 groups. One group was put on idagasp once a day and oral anti-diabetic drugs, and the other was given glargine and aspart. Let's see what happened. And this study was done for 38 weeks. Initially, glargine was given once a day, then glargine was given twice a day, and aspart was also intensified. So what they found is that the HbA1c, you can say the proof of the pudding is HbA1c, and you can see the HbA1c was exactly the same numerically whether you give glargine, aspart, or idagasp. Second point is the fasting blood sugar was exactly the same whether you give glargine plus aspart or degludec plus aspart. In fact, the number of injections was lower with idagasp. So if you look at co-formulation versus basal bolus therapy, you can see that hypoglycemia is numerically lower with idagasp. We are told that a rapid-acting insulin produces hypoglycemia. But here a combination of a rapid-acting and a degludec produced not more hypoglycemias. Why? That's because degludec causes less hypoglycemias. And nocturnal confirmed hypoglycemias were significantly lower, ranging from 39 to 45%. And you can see that there was lower insulin dose requirement also. So you have same HbA1c control, same fasting control, numerical reduction in overall hypoglycemia, statistically significant reduction in nocturnal hypoglycemia, and lesser insulin dose. So why would you prescribe 4 injections of basal bolus if you can control your patient with 2 injections? And if 2 injections, for example, doesn't work, we can always give 4 injections later. So why not try a simple injection of a co-formulation 2 times a day? So this was an achieved study, again, which showed that even if you think that idagasp is expensive, I think biphasic aspart also offers better improvement in glycemic control over a simple glargine injection. So I'm coming to a case. This patient was seen in 2016 January, and sugars were not controlled on voglibose, metformin, glimepiride, glargine, and blood glucose levels were high. The patient did not wish for SGLT2 inhibitor. This was the time in range initially, you can see that this is a CGM graph. This is the lower blood sugar of 70. This is a higher blood sugar of 180. This dark line you see is the median. What does the median tell you? It tells you intraday variability. How much variability is occurring within the day? What does this tell you? There is no nocturnal hypoglycemia. In fact, there is nocturnal hyperglycemia. It's also telling you that at around 12 o'clock, there is a peak, and there is another peak at around after lunchtime as well. So there are two peaks out there. What it tells you is that the entire median values are all above normal, except at one time it's coming to 180. You can see that the median values are all high. What is the time in range? The time in range is only 20%. Time below range is 0%. So if people are worried about hypoglycemia on insulin, let me tell you, most of our patients don't have hypoglycemia, they have hyperglycemia. Blood glucose levels are very high in Indian patients. This has been shown again and again. And by the time we start insulin, in the IMPROVE study, which I did many years back, we did, I think, more than 16,000 patients, and we showed that the HbA1c at the time of starting insulin is something like 9.3%. So hypoglycemia is not the real problem today. Hyperglycemia is the problem. And you can see time below range is 0% and 80% is the time above range. And this patient did not want insulin. And we again, saw the patient later in 2016 with more diet. And I think you can see that it was marginally better. You can see that the median came down into range more number of times. There's still nocturnal hyperglycemia post-breakfast, post-lunch. The average glucose is 198. The time in range is 45%. Is it better? It's better. It was 20%, it is 45%. I know it's not looking good. And but this is a story. It's a real story. The patient refuses insulin and says, okay, I don't want to take this drug. I don't want to take that drug. I want to just try diet, exercise. I don't want any more drugs. And keeping on telling you. And we have no choice. We try to convince them. So finally what we did is that we continued the metformin, stopped the glimepiride, stopped the voglibose. We prescribed linagliptin 5 mg, and we put the patient on Idegasp 10 units in the morning and 10 units in the evening. That's what we did for this patient. Finally, patient agreed for insulin, and we could start insulin in this patient. And then let's see what happened to the CGM profile. So then this was a gratifying result. I must say that I don't put all my patients on CGMs. Some of the well-off and motivated patients who keep on wanting to do it, I do that. So I hope people don't think that Dr. Unnikrishnan is a very techno-savvy doctor and any patient he's putting only on CGM. I also don't want you to take the impression that all my patients are so well controlled like this. They are not. In fact, they are like, I suppose everybody's practice, my practice also, blood glucose levels are difficult to control. But this was one of the nice results I got. And we doctors have a bias to show the good result. And I'm showing you the good result, so you can take it with a pinch of salt, or maybe the patient took a pinch of less sugar. That could have happened. But this was a reasonably good report. You can see the median values are mostly now in range. So the intraday variability seems to have come down, but there is a post-lunch spike there. So you are giving Idegasp 2 times a day. It's not really covering the lunch. So therefore you see a small lunchtime spike there, which you can take care by adding another insulin or even giving a voglibose at that point of time, or even using a repaglinide. You don't necessarily have to give an insulin. But see the remarkable median that most of the times are within the range. This dark blue color shading actually shows you the variability of the drug. And the light blue shading shows you the behavioral variability which the patient depicts. So you will see that there is very minimal variation in the drug. The dark blue shading is looking okay. The light blue shading shows that yes, the patient's meals have to be a little more consistent. And you can see that there is now a tendency to hypoglycemia that has developed. So sure enough, the time in range has improved to 70%, and that's the target, to improve time in range to 70% is our target. And you will see that hypoglycemia has now increased to about 10%. But remember, the AGP always over detects hypoglycemia. So hypoglycemia is always over detected in the AGP. And you can see that hyperglycemia was now come down to 20%. So just to put it into perspective, we saw this patient in January. Patient was not willing for insulin. The average sugar was 238. You can see the time in range was only 20%. We saw the patient again in December. The average sugar came down to 198 and time in range was 45%. Patient was not willing for insulin. Finally, when we put the patient on insulin, there's some problem with the dates, but when we put the patient on insulin, what happened is that this patient did better. So I just want to say that insulin is a good treatment for type 2 diabetes, and insulin works in many patients with type 2 diabetes, and insulin helps in treating type 2 diabetes. You can see that like anybody else, I am guilty of this is not my patient, the patient of our team. We are also guilty of treatment inertia. 2016, time in range is 20%. 2016 December, time in range is again 45%. Then it is only in September, October 2019 that we achieved a time in range of 70%. So it's not easy to control blood glucose levels. People don't want insulin. And insulin, this patient is already, if a patient is on glargine, it's difficult to convince patient to take 4 injections. You can convince patient to take 2 injections. So now you can see that here is a situation where the patient has responded well to a co-formulation regimen. So this patient is on glargine 14 units, and on glargine this was a value, and when we added co-formulation, this is a value. So just so that people who came in late, this was on glargine, this is on glargine, this is on co-formulation. And of course, oral drugs were added. I now want to talk about the device. Nothing much to talk about. All the devices today are very good, and this device is, the Idegas device is also very good. So it's accurate, it's durable, it's convenient, it's safe. It's accurate after several years. We've been using NovoPen 4, and it's a good device to use. And it's a durable device. It lasts for a long time. I like that it is easy to see and easy to read. It's a short push button for older people. You don't have to press hard. And there is an end of dose click. So people whose vision is poor, they can hear the click of the insulin injection. And therefore, as I said yesterday, we are all here to see how diabetes care can be improved and to achieve as normal glucose level as possible. Glycemic control deteriorates over time, and continued insulin treatment is needed. Intensifying the co-formulation. So if your patient is on basal insulin, you have 2 options. You can give basal bolus 4 injections, or you can give a co-formulation. I think a co-formulation is a good idea if you want to keep it very simple. 2 times a day, convenience. If your patient's sugars are extremely high and patient is willing to do carb counting, check 4 times a day, very motivated, then you can think of basal bolus. And you have newer devices which have made all this very easy. I want to thank you all for listening to me, and also thank you all for turning out in such large numbers for the conference. It's a pleasure to be here. If something goes wrong during the conference, if some facility is not available or food, you have to stand in a long queue, I apologize, because we've got more people this time than we planned. But we are so happy to see that doctors are here to understand and discuss and deliberate diabetes from an Indian context. I think we'll take the questions at the end. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to me.